Okay, this is our final video on calculating sale price and food cost. This one we're going to talk about food cost variance. So we're talking about the difference between our standard food cost or potential food cost and our actual food cost that we calculated based on our inventory usage and all our expenses and things like that. So as I mentioned in the last video, they're going to be different, right? They should be as close as possible, but there's going to be variances, right? If we have a higher food cost, it means we're making less profit, right? Any of our expenses go up, that little wedge of our pie of our total sales is going to shrink, right? So what are the things that can contribute to this? If we have a high food cost, where should we be looking? How can we adjust that food cost, or how can we fix it, right? Well, one of them is theft, right? Whether it's theft from outside people or, sorry to say, people that work for you, right? I have caught people on occasion trying to sneak food out of the kitchen, whole tenderloins, things like that, not so good for the overall cost of the establishment, but good for their, refrigerator cost at home. But theft is an issue, right? Waste is the next one. So waste, in this case, we're talking about overproduction, right? And we'll get into subsequent chapters where we're talking about forecasting, so we know how much production we should be making, so we can control this area. But if we're, making 100 hamburgers a day, but only selling 12, we're throwing a lot of hamburgers out, right? Or staff are eating them, right? And that's waste. Another one is spoilage, right? So spoilage is when we're ordering too much, right? So we have product that's going bad in the coolers before we can use it up or sell the product. So again, this ties in with forecasting a little bit later, right? Purveyor price increase. So if our suppliers change the price, right, that's going to affect our food cost, right? The price of beef goes up, our food cost on our hamburgers is going to go up, right? If it goes up significantly, we need to adjust our pricing, right? And then the last one is government regulations can impact us too. In the past few years, we have noticed carbon taxes, fuel levies, things like that go into the delivery of our food, which in turn raises the price of the products that we're using, right? So each one of these areas we can try and control, right? With theft, we can add some greater security, maybe some video cameras, locks on the coolers, even manned security that come through the kitchen and after hours, right? Waste, proper forecasting, right? And making sure that the employees are producing the amounts that they're supposed to be producing, right? Spoilage, right? Making sure that we're forecasting the right amount and then forecasting how much product we need to order, right? Maybe it's ordering more times per week and less amounts so that our ingredients stay fresher so that they don't go bad on us, right? Not much we can do about price increase other than monitoring them so that we can increase our prices as those prices go up, right? So that's talking about an increase in food cost. What about if our food cost is less than what we'd budgeted or less than our standard cost, right? That's good. We're making more money. Our profit's going better, right? That's good. Maybe, right? If your food cost percentage is significantly less than what you had planned on, you should be asking why, right? Something isn't going as planned. Yeah, we're making more money. That's great. But are we not giving the customers the quality? Are we ordering a substandard grade? Are we giving 6 shrimp instead of 8 shrimp on the plate? Things like that need to be investigated, because if we're not giving out the quality and the standards, guess what happens? Our customers don't come back, right? So variances either way need to be investigated. They need to have answers to them. They aren't always bad and they aren't always good. I've had great examples of when my food cost dollar was less than we had planned, and it wasn't for any negative reason other than a wedding got canceled. So we collected the deposit, right? So that's just straight profit that we weren't planning on, and we didn't have to order the food, right? I've had all those other ones, price increases and theft from the kitchen and overproduction and spoilage, right? You're gonna come across those throughout your career. But the thing is, if there's a variance, you should know why. right? And I'm not talking like, a 1/4%, but if we're out by, a percentage or more, you should know why it's that much different, right? Are we not following the standardized recipes? Are we ordering too much product? These are all questions that you need to ask yourself and your team as to why those variances are there, right? Sometimes they're explainable. Sometimes they're there for a good reason. Food cost is up because the sales department sold this wedding at $10 a person cheaper than what we recommended it to. Well, that was a decision that was made for the betterment of the business. So we made a little less profit, but we made some dollars, right? That's the old question, would you like 1% of $1 million or $5,000 in your hand? Well, I'll take the 1% of the $1 million, right? So those are things that all have to be considered, right? So in order to control revenue, we need to use some tools. And one of the best tools that we can use is a point of sale system or a computerized POS, right? That can help us categorize our food sales so we know, okay, how many main courses did we sell? How many desserts did we sell? Which server sold it? What guests sold it, right? There's so much information that we can use in there that we can really drill down that if our food cost is out by a couple of percentage, is it coming from main courses? Is it coming from appetizers? Maybe desserts, right? Maybe a server isn't punching in all the food they're selling and they're collecting cash sales in their pocket. There's many scams out there that can happen, right? We can control our voids, we control our promos, but we need to make sure that only people of responsibility have access to that and a limited number of those people so we can track them, right? Managers should only be able to remove an item from a guest check, right? Servers shouldn't be able to do that. Managers can require all cash to go through a single cashier. Any of these options can be used to control our costs and our dollars that are coming into our business, right? If you don't have a computer or POS system, you should be using a dupe check system, right? And I know this is, from my old days, but it was carbon paper, right? Orders were written on a piece of paper that automatically copied it to a second piece of paper. One went to the kitchen, one stayed out front so that you could reconcile later, right? So that the managers could compare food that left the kitchen was actually we got money for, right? And then we can always obviously review those checks for additional errors. Okay. All right. So in this whole chapter or section, we talked about the many different methods of setting selling price. We talked about the difference between standard and actual food cost and how we calculate our actual food cost based on our inventory, our opening inventory and our closing inventory. In the next chapter, we're going to talk about all these options about how we select our products, where are we getting our products from, how do we track perishable and non-perishable products.